Cadet Ted Berry, 1C Cadet. Cadet Berry is graduating cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Transportation and minor in Business Administration. He will now speak on behalf of the cadets, class of 2017.
So, first thing I gotta say is, while some of you may be surprised this is me, my parents are surprised because they just found out it's me. So welcome, distinguished guests, faculty and staff, family and friends, and most importantly, the class of 2017. If we have learned anything in our time here, it is that in order for us to succeed, the help of others is absolutely necessary. First and foremost, with the family and friends of our graduates, please stand. All right, that's a little bit much to ask for all of you. These individuals have given us the financial, emotional, and academic support and guidance to help us through our years at Cal Maritime. It is said that behind all great figures in history, there was a strong family base. This base that you have given us has helped and will continue to help us succeed. Next, I would like the teachers and staff of the California State University Maritime Academy to please stand. This one's a little more manageable. Without the great care that you have shown in teaching us and helping us grow from bumbling freshmen to college graduates, we could not be where we are today. There is no doubt that the jobs we have lined up or the career paths we intend to follow have been influenced by the knowledge that you have bestowed upon us, and we thank you. Many of you are sitting here wondering who I am. Instead, you should be asking the question who we are. Are we engineers? Are we MPM? Are we deckies? Are we keel haulers? Well, in all reality, we're probably unemployed. For each one of us, the experience has been as alike as it has been different and as rewarding as it has been challenging. Our journey through Cal Maritime is entirely unique compared to any other college experience. There are alumni sitting here today who understand what I'm talking about. While preparing for this speech, I mulled over the best plan of attack to describe to the family and friends in attendance what our time at Cal Maritime has been like. I needed a way to tell our stories, so naturally I chose to compare us to a reality show. All great reality shows start out with a strong name, a hook, line, and sinker, so to speak. Maybe a classic like Vallejo Shore, or The Real World Vallejo, or my personal favorite, The Real Housewives of Vallejo. I'll leave it up to you to decide. The first episode of any reality show is the most important. It is the episode that will keep the viewer coming back. There needs to be drama, late nights, and excitement. When our series first came on the air 4 years ago in the fall of 2013, the topic of our pilot episode was freshman orientation. Many of you will remember this time as you moved in your loved ones into their first college dorm. The always lovely Upper Residence Hall, or the illustrious Motel 6 up the road. But I digress. Throughout that week, our ratings were tested, and it was observed how our cast would interact with each other. There were late nights, early mornings, and a minor vessel crash. Looking at you, Captain Crunch, you know who you are. When our pilot episode was over, we were deemed a television success and cleared to begin our first season. Throughout our first season, we were faced with getting used to our new environment and starting out on the right foot. As with all reality shows, there was drama, comedy, romance, the whole 9 yards. We learned our way around campus, getting lost at times for well over 2 hours, despite the fact that the campus is only a quarter mile in size. Most of us had never experienced waking up in the middle of the night to go stand watches that seemed to last forever, after which we would thankfully be relieved, only to watch the sun rise and begin another day of class. Most of us remember the loud nights in Upper Residence Hall, and if you don't, odds are you had a pretty good time. We spent our first season playing... We spent our first season playing hard but working even harder, with underlying hopes that there would be a second season and we would be recast in it. One of the most notable things about freshman year for most of us freshmen was freshman cruise, unless you're an MPM, in which you probably just went home. For those of us in deck and engine, it was our first time out to sea, our first time in a world where the steadiness of the deck beneath our feet could not be taken for granted. Where motion sickness could previously be remedied by pulling the car over or getting off the roller coaster, it had never been our inexplicable existence. But who could forget those episodes filled in port, the culture clash, the pent-up stress unleashed upon unsuspecting cities, the mad dash made up the gangway at 11:59 p.m. All these factors led to experiences that we still talk about and will continue to tell these stories for the rest of our lives. Our second season started, and we noticed that there were some cast members who didn't return. Some cast members made their debut. Some people that we used to look up to had ended their contracts and moved on to a new show. We also found that our cast began to grow apart as we no longer lived in one single building together. Part of growing apart meant that we began to develop our own roles, our own place in this rat race. A few of the most notable things we did during this season were our commercial cruises, and for those lucky MPMs, international experience. During the co-op portion of this season, we gathered real-world experience and were given a chance to show what we now had to offer after 2 arduous years at Cal Maritime. Reading through the leftover scripts from the international experience episodes, I saw scenes reminiscent of our freshman cruise debauchery. There were plenty of blurry nights in red light districts, various cast members left behind without notice, and frantic races across unfamiliar towns to get back to the hotel before curfew. Oh, and education, of course. Now halfway through our reality show, we were able to assess ourselves and how we measured up into industry standards. Most of us were not disappointed. In our third season, we found ourselves now a primetime reality show, although once again among a slightly different cast. Suddenly, we were, for the first time, in a position of actual responsibility. We had been treated as equals during our co-ops and had a taste for what life beyond this crazy reality show had to offer, and we were thirsty for more of that feeling. More of the feeling of being part of a commercial crew or an industry team, essential to the operation and life of a vessel or the success of a company. Our newest cast members, the incoming freshmen, became part of our reality as we helped them adapt to life on prime time. For the first time, we were the role models. We were the teachers, combining the lessons we were taught on campus with the ones we had to learn on our own and passing them on to the ones following in our footsteps. While not all picked up the skills they needed, most were given an idea of what to expect in the months and years to follow. They found, as we did, that the road they were taking wasn't going to be entirely in the dark. Our third season had one of the most climactic finales of all, as MPMs took on their internships and the rest of us headed back out to sea on the training ship. This time, it was not as wet behind the ears freshmen, but as cadet watch officers and the core leaders who guided those freshmen in their first experience at sea. We graduated from being ordered to clean up the messes made to being the ones making the mess. We discovered many things, such as thinking we were over our seasickness, but really weren't. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who thought I was shooting the North Star, but it really actually was shooting Mars. Only to find for some strange reason that we still knew where we were. We also found that we were still making that mad dash at the gangway at 11:59. Some things just never change. Meanwhile, MPM students were experiencing life as an intern, often in the form of long hours with little or no pay. With the hopes of a job offer on the horizon, our MPM cast fumbled through countless mistakes, stupid questions to supervisors, and probably a coffee run or two. Still, we found that we got the respect that we felt we deserved, despite not really knowing anything about anything. In the final season, we filmed the culmination of our education at Cal Maritime. We now found that we were at the top of the food chain and found ourselves working to recall everything we had learned during our time here, partly for completing and hopefully passing our licensing exams and capstone projects, and also to pass on everything we could before our series finale. During this time, we learned whether or not we would have what it takes to become a licensed officer or successful industry professional. Whether or not we would get the jobs we were hoping for, seeing if the contacts we had accumulated during our co-op seasons had paid off, we also went from being the main characters in our show to welcoming the newer ones who have now stepped up to take our spots. As we now sit here in the series finale, I find myself looking back on our pilot episode. At the end of orientation week, we were told, look to your left and look to your right. You will see these people at graduation. While that may or may not exactly be the case, and about half of the cast of that pilot episode are not part of this finale, I now ask you to look to your left and to look to your right. This cast will forever be your shipmates, in your memories and in your hearts. Be aware of what choices you make, because you never know who they may affect. What we have learned in these 4 seasons might just pay off. Congratulations, class of 2017. We did it.